I just had 15 people come in 20 minutes before we close, and I go up to them to say, hey guys, just want to let you know we're going to be closing in 20 minutes. Would you want to get something to go? She's like, we have 15 people. Do you think we want to get something to go? And obviously I knew the answer was no. So I say, I'm sorry. Would you guys want to come back another day? She's like, no, we're standing here right now. I'm like, I'm sorry. We're closing in about 20 minutes. I don't think we'll have enough time. My manager over here comes around and is like, oh, well, actually we can sit you. So then she ends up getting sat. By the time they're finally ready to give me a drink order, it's literally closed. Half of them are children. So I make their drinks, drop them off. Instantly, 3 of them spill it. They're like, oh, well, this is why we usually get kitty cups. I'm like, well, you didn't ask for kitty cups. Meanwhile, these kids aren't 3 or 4 years old. They're literally like 9 and 10-year-olds. You would think they would be able to drink from a glass with a straw. But anyway, so I go and I have to make the kitty cups. By the time they're willing to give me their food order, it's literally 4:30 and we closed at 4 o'clock. So they're giving me their food order. I'm putting this in. I realized half of these things that they picked, they didn't give me like all of the answers I needed. So if they ordered a breakfast platter, they didn't tell me how they wanted their eggs, or they didn't tell me if they wanted 2 meats. And you might say that I'm the problem, but meanwhile, during their whole order, it was not like, hey man, what can I get for you? It's literally all of them just yelling at me at once, being like, how's the chicken quesadilla? How's the chicken hero? How's this? So obviously, I'm not going to be able to be in my like full focus mode. So I have to go back and ask them. She's like, I don't know. Let me see the menu again. So I have to go get the menu. Meanwhile, this happens 3 times in a row to 3 of the different people sitting there. I have to go and grab the menus because they can't make a decision on the spot. 2 of them decided to change their food from breakfast things to literal just chicken sandwiches. I don't know how you can just be craving breakfast and then change it to a chicken sandwich, besides the point. So then I come to drop it off to them and they're not answering me. I'm like, guys, who had the chicken sandwich? Even though I should know this, it's not the point. Just help me out. There's 15 of you and I have a giant tray filled with food. No one sits up. I'm like, hello? Who had the chicken sandwich? They're like, look at the help. This woman literally said, look at the help. Is that me? Am I the help? I'm a server. This isn't even the end of it. Somehow, something was in their food. I don't know if it was a hair. I don't know what it was. Something was in their food. This woman starts hysterically screaming at me that she's being poisoned. So I have to go back to the kitchen and be like, guys, it doesn't look like a hair. I don't know what this is. They're like, oh, I think that's just like part of the pulp of the avocado that we used in her guacamole chicken sandwich. And so I go back and tell her, I'm like, oh, they said that that's not, anything bad. It's just from the avocado. She's like, I have made 1,000,000 guacamole things in my life and I have never seen that. I'm like, well, I don't think they're lying, ma'am. And she's like, I don't think they're lying. I think they're trying to save their butts. And I'm like, I'm really sorry, ma'am. I have to go and get the manager. The manager comes out. They're literally battling back and forth until finally this woman's food got taken off. And shortly after, they left, leaving us the worst review I've ever witnessed in my entire life.
If you have ever worked in hospitality, Dean's tales will certainly trigger you, but we could not be more entertained by his wild stories of rude customers.
Coming in unexpected with 14 people on a busy Sunday should be immediate jail time. So this woman calls me up on the phone. She's like, hi, we found you guys online, but we need to make a reservation for 14 people. And I'm like, yes, ma'am, you would. What day do you want to come in? And she's like, well, actually, we're walking on the street now. And before I can even say, ma'am, we would need at least 45 minutes to make this happen, she's standing in front of me with her phone off. So I go up to her, reiterate this, grab the hostess, and they get sat within 15 minutes in my section. So I go up to them like, oh, great, guys, you got sat. This guy's like, well, why'd you tell my wife 45 minutes if it only took 15? And I think he's joking. So I'm like, oh, well, we're just the busiest place in town, so usually we make reservations. He's like, well, we're from New York. And I'm like, so am I. He's like, no, we're from the city, and we go to way busier and better places. I'm just like, all right, sorry about that. Did you guys want to get some drinks? Same guy tries to order a Bloody Mary. I'm like, I'm sorry, we don't have any hard alcohol, but we do have mimosas and sangria. Some other woman's like, that's sketchy. So I'm just noticing that they're trying to get a rise out of me, so I ignore it. I come back a few minutes later. Then they start asking me who the wholesale fish dealer is. So I go back to the kitchen, ask them this. They're like, Dean, can you ask us this later? I'm like, no, it's for a customer. They're like, oh, we get it from the restaurant depot. I go tell them this. They start screaming, ew, frozen fish? We would never eat frozen fish. Now the rest of the restaurant is staring at them. I'm like, I'm sorry, guys. Like, I'll bring it up next establishment meeting and let them know that we need better fish. They're just like laughing at me, being like, whatever. Then they order their food, and I think everything's gonna be fine. Some food runner brings it out. She comes back. She's some 14-year-old child. She comes back. She's literally on the verge of tears. I'm like, what's wrong? She's like, that woman just screamed at me that we forgot her sweet potato fries. So I go out to her. I'm like, ma'am, your sweet potato fries are coming. She just couldn't carry them all in one tray. She's like, yeah, we've heard that one before. We know that's just an excuse, and you just put it in. I'm like, no ma'am, I didn't just put it in. She's like, well, what? I'm gonna wait 15 minutes for these fries now? I'm like, no. And luckily another food runner literally drops it off as I'm saying, no, you're not gonna have to wait. And she's like, whatever. So then they eat. At the end of the meal, I come drop their check off. They start immediately screaming at me, automatic gratuity? What's this? And I'm like, well, it says it on every menu. They're like, where? I have to go grab a menu, point it out to them. They're like, what? We eat at Nobu and we never have automatic gratuity. I'm like, I'm really sorry about that. I can get the owner if you like. They're like, we're not Karens. We don't need to speak to the owner. We're just asking you to kindly take that off and we'll tip you what we think you deserve. And I'm like, I'm sorry. I can grab the owner if you like, but I can't just take that off. They're like, whatever. So then I'm just standing there for 10 minutes as they start arguing back and forth about who's gonna pay, who's gonna Venmo, who's gonna Zelle. And then finally they give me the money, and at least I got a $55 tip dealing with these horrible, horrible folk.
Having worked in hospitality myself, I can totally understand Dean's frustrations. Some of the customers that you get, the stories you wouldn't believe. Someone should make a series out of it, I'm telling you. The comment section were more than sympathetic to Dean's struggles, with one person saying, I'm hoping you have a better day tomorrow. And someone in disbelief at the customers quoted, we're not Karens with a crying face. To which Dean replied, I was like, girl, but you are. As always, thank you so much for watching Happiest. If you like this video, then be sure to follow our Instagram and TikTok pages for more videos like this. And if you've got any of your own you'd like to share, be sure to send them in.